and welcome. My name is James Rice from Mohawk Valley Community College, and today I'm joined by Stephen Miller from Eastern New Mexico University Ruidoso Branch Community College. Stephen, welcome.
Hello, James. It's good to be here, and thank you for the time.
Of course, and of course, today we're here to talk about your upcoming topic at the summit in this coming fall. The topic is the successes and challenges faced by community colleges in addressing the evolving cybersecurity work roles. And so as I was kind of reviewing the abstract information of your topic, I thought it would be appropriate just to start out by having your initial take on how do you see the work roles, how have you seen them evolving, and where do you see community colleges kind of fitting into this?
Sure. Well, the work roles have been defined, of course, by the NCyTE framework, but also industry has their work roles as well as based on maybe a job description or a certain position in a company. So it's always a challenge to try to meet the industry requirements, as well as our curriculum is guided by both the NCyTE framework and the work roles defined there, along with merging those in with our CAE knowledge units that we use. So it's been a interesting time. It's evolved. We had our program start in 2010, and we started with the NCyTE framework. Later on, found out about the CAE KUs and implemented those as well. So the students' awareness for these work roles is kind of is one of the most important things. So we right off the bat work with the students to understand, here's the work roles, where can you go from this associate's degree program or from this certification program, and then our curriculum and the content in there is all geared around each one of those tasks within the work roles. And then we also measure their competencies through different tools that we may have, like we use the NCyTE challenge. We have certain labs that help assess their competency, and then all of our students participate in competitions, mainly the National Cyber League competition. And the feedback we've had from our students is, and if you don't know this, but recently NCL mapped the NCyTE work roles to the NCyTE challenge, and so that's helped our students tremendously. They really understand where they are experienced and have good abilities and knowledge, and then areas they need to work on. And some of those we don't teach, and we tell those students these are areas you have to go out and do your own lifelong learning on your own, because that's just part of being a cyber professional.
Right, and it kind of, as you're making some of those comments, I'm reflecting on how I personally kind of wear two hats from time to time, both as the cyber faculty at Mohawk Valley, but also for a local DoD contractor as a cyber analyst. And so I'm kind of reflecting on some of the things you're saying that, you know, when you approach it from both directions, both kind of from academia and from the private sector, you know, the NCyTE framework it's a pretty large framework, and it seems to me that certain parts of the framework lend themselves more relevant to certain parts of academia or specifically community colleges, and others it might be a slightly different perspective if you come at it from the private sector. So since we're kind of interested in the academia perspective, what do you see community colleges, how do you see community colleges approaching the NCyTE framework and making sense of the work roles? Are there specific work roles that kind of we should be focusing on a little bit more, or what's been your experience kind of in that regard?
Okay, well, that's a good question. And we looked at this, we work with our steering committee, and that's made up of academia as well as industry and government, and talking with our other faculty members, and with our students. We try to get feedback from our students because they are the customer, and we're trying to meet their requirements. So we've identified that really there's about two areas from the NCyTE work, the NCyTE framework, and that would be operate and maintain, and those work roles within operate and maintain, and then and this is from a community college perspective, and the students getting jobs out of there, and then protect and defend. And from my perspective and my experience being retired from ExxonMobil and being in the Global Information Systems Department and also part of the Operations Center at one time, I think there's a role for cyber operators as well from a community college. I know we hired lots of community college students, especially veterans that had gone on and got an associate's degree, and they went into an operations type of a job. And so the work roles there fit: a systems administrator, a network administrator, a help desk, or a cyber technician, we would call it. So most of your community colleges and the curriculum around that should be geared for those students that are going to be entry-level technicians to start with, or operators, or help desk. And that's what we've seen our students as far as being placed in those jobs. Now, there are those students that may have prior experience or maybe have a 4-year degree. They end up going into a higher level job. But when we're talking about a pipeline for entry level and students coming out of high school into the program, that's where we're trying to bring them into that as that technician or that operator.
Well, I think it's great that, multiple times without even asking, you're already bringing up how proactive you've been about informing the students and keeping them as an active part of this process, and realizing that, that's almost part of our job as faculty and as educators, is to take some of these complex frameworks and interpret it and inform the people who really need to know this stuff, the students who, if you told them, "Oh, just go learn about NIST, go learn about the NICE framework," that they wouldn't know where to start. And so that's really, really interesting how you've been mentioning that kind of all along. And I'd like to kind of tie that sort of to my next comment here, which is, as you are identifying some parts of the NICE framework that it makes sense for us at community colleges to kind of consider and focus on a little bit. I'm kind of reflecting on how, life rarely works in a straight line. You oftentimes go from one place to another, and it's like, okay, I didn't exactly plan for that, let's say. And so one thing I wonder here is, as we're talking about, going from an operator, a help desk, to some type of administrator and working your way through professionally, do students oftentimes realize the on-ramps and the off-ramps of their various academic choices or of their professional choices? I would tend to say that they don't always necessarily realize that. And so us as educators, this is something I almost feel that we might need to help understand and help communicate to kind of everyone involved. So I guess I'd like to see or hear your opinion on, do you believe, given what you've seen, that's consistent, that there are specific on-ramps and off-ramps? And if you start down this path, do you realize that this is a path you're starting down? And did you intend for that to happen, or just did it happen haphazardly? And maybe reflect on that a little bit.
Well, I would agree that first of all, a lot of students don't realize what the pathways could be and what their career development should be. Our steering committee, when we first put the program together, they were not going to approve our curriculum unless we had a course called cyber ethics, professionalism, and career development. And that whole idea around career development, you need to understand where you're going in life as far as your professional career. And so we've kind of geared that. We have that class, and so students right up front get an understanding of what are the options they have, and the careers that they could have in cyber, and even how they could cross over to other careers from a cyber program. My experience at Exxon is that every 2 years you change jobs, just about. And so you had a different, you were learning and a new profession and a new career as you went through. So I try to apply that to our curriculum and our program. And so the students, we try to help the students understand what their pathways could be, and and you don't get locked in. You can have a work role and concentrate on that one with the idea that this work role will lead to other types of jobs or other pathways. So, and they're not always technical either. And so, I try to use this model that we had at Exxon. We had a technical path and a professional path, a managerial path, you might say. So you could go back and forth on a technical path or on a managerial path. And a lot of times the technical path had higher paid jobs. If you were concerned about money, I had several systems analysts who were making more than me as a supervisor. And so, if you're looking at it from the monetary, or if you're looking at it from a different experience, or what makes you perform better and apply your abilities, then maybe the other track is better, and you can go back and forth. So we try to show that to our students in our courses, and we do that not just in the one course I mentioned, but it's all throughout the curriculum. We're addressing this is how this work role, this is what we're learning today. Here's the work role, here's the objectives. We talk about outcomes and stuff. I think part of that outcomes have to be tied to the work role. You understand that this is something you have to be able to do if you're working in a job, and you need to set up passwords control or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something that I'm thinking more when I think on the private sector, how I've rarely seen how someone who starts as the help desk technician makes the jump to saying, well, now I finished my bachelor's degree and now I'm going to jump over to, let's say, being a computer scientist or a software developer. It's like the connection there, you're trying to connect dots that are going down slightly different pathways, and you didn't understand that. It was never communicated to you that those are slightly different skill sets. And that's something that I've kind of seen. So I found it really interesting how, you've been tying that in with the student experience, and how you just emphasize that right up front to everyone, and make everyone very work role conscious, so that they can realize and kind of do things on purpose, let's say, is really kind of a big message that I'm hearing. So
yeah, I think that is what you need to get across to the students, and they have to also take that responsibility. That's something in that course that I talked about, professionalism and career development. You are responsible for your career, and so you have to take on the role of being responsible and also accountable, and what you're going to learn. So it doesn't always have to be in the classroom. Some of the better students actually will go out and do things. They teach me things. Mm-hmm. Hey, have you learned? We don't teach a lot on cryptography. I have students that can teach me on cryptography. So, but that's what they have an interest in. So they share that with the rest of the cohorts in the program.
That's really interesting. And I guess that kind of gets to sort of my wrap-up topic here, was if you could give us sort of a hint or a sneak preview of what are some of the recommendations, some of the things you think are effective ways that us as community college faculty, that we can communicate some of this information to students. What do you find that works? And maybe you're hinting at one, an extracurricular type activity discussion, something like a cyber club might be a way. But if you have anything like that, what do you think is an effective way to get us to engage with students on this?
Well, first of all, having that orientation class. If you have an orientation about what is the cybersecurity all about, what are the work roles, what are the pathways that you can proceed to go into, and then understanding what your role is, what the school's role is and what we're trying to teach in our curriculum. And then I think you mentioned extra curricular activities are important. All of our students are required to participate in the National Cyber League. If they're declared a major in cyber, then they're going to be in the NCL competition. They all have a capstone class that they take the NICE challenge to see at the end of their at the last class that they take is really the NICE challenge. Mm-hmm. And so that'll really, and actually feedback we're actually incorporating a NICE challenge into other courses, because feedback from some of our students is that it would have been nice to know this ahead of time. If we could have understand what the challenge was, could we, maybe we could have done better than what we did to start with. So
Imagine that you ask your customers what they think and they tell you.
yeah,
That's usually what people do. So, well, hey, I think the topic of, how we're facing the challenges for addressing these cyber work roles is really interesting. And Stephen, and I want to thank you here for joining me today, and I look forward to hearing the full brief here in the fall.
I look forward to it too, James. Thank you.
All right, thanks.